Welcome to the Embodying Excellence Podcast. We're your hosts, Carlo and Brenden. How are you today, Brenden?
I'm really good, thank you. What about yourself?
I am well, thank you. We've had another big week full of editing videos, creating content, working on our goals and our plans, and the year's actually been quite a big year, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's gone so quickly. Got so much done, so much more to do, and it's never ending.
We're in December. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's insane.
I'm mind blown as to how fast this year goes, and I say this every year, mind you. Like every year, I go, "Oh man, this is going so quickly," and it feels like it's just going faster and faster as I get older. And with that, I think as well, we're up to episode 44. This episode,
44, 45, something like that. Yeah, losing count.
We're flying. We are flying. What are we talking about today?
We're talking about the difference between good and great.
Awesome and nice, right?
Good and nice. Sorry, what am I saying?
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's okay. I wanted to clarify. So there is a definite difference between good and nice.
Yeah.
So I can definitely say that I've been both a nice guy and a good guy, and the fundamental difference is intent. And so nice guys often are just nice because they have some ulterior motive, and good guys are genuinely good because they want what's good for themselves, other people, and everything as a whole within their lives.
Yeah.
And so fundamentally, nice guys can be trusted for a certain period of time.
Yeah.
Where with good guys, like you can sense that they're good and you can build that trust long term. And there's a substantial amount of action that good people take to ensure that they're being looked after, everyone else around them is being looked after, and their circumstances continue to benefit everybody around them. Whereas what I've found being a nice guy is that you make the circumstances beneficial for the amount of time that it benefits yourself.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, when that doesn't fully extend to everywhere else, it doesn't pan out often and ends up just collapsing on itself. That's been my experience with the both of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. You can always tell when someone's just being, they call a nice guy without, like, not just being nice, but a nice, what people label as a nice guy. And you can see there's an ulterior motive there. They want something from you. It's not just all about the right intent behind it. It's just, they want something from you. They're just being nice for the sake of getting something out of you. There's no intrinsic motivation to want to do better for someone just for the sake of doing better. It's just about getting something out of someone and trying to help themselves out, leverage themselves out to either be in a better spot, whether it be financially, socially, whatever it is, or in a relationship wise or whatever, what it may be. They're just trying to get something out of you, whereas being a kind person is doing it with a genuine intent in place and doing it for the right reasons, basically. And you can tell big time because you're not just doing. You can tell basically by what you can see what they're doing when you're not involved in the situation. So if they're doing the same things that they were doing to you, for example, and you can see them doing it somewhere else, you know that they're just being a nice guy and not doing it as a kind person. They're just doing it to get something out of them. And the more and more they do that, the more obvious it is.
Absolutely. And I don't believe that this is as obvious as what you just said, but there has a lot to do with self-respect when it comes to being a nice guy versus a good guy.
Yeah.
A nice guy has very little self-respect because the thing is they're willing to change who they are or change who they say they are to fit a certain criteria, so that then it later benefits them. And so they're not being very authentic, they're not being very true to who they think they should be because they're pretending to be somebody else for somebody else.
Yeah.
Where a genuinely good person understands that there is a natural good and bad. And so even though the world is subjective, at the same time, objectively, they have principles, they have beliefs, they have narratives, they have stories, and with that, they're able to align themselves with those things. And then when they do align themselves with those things, whoever it is that they are serving and then they help, then it often ends up benefiting everybody. And so to have that confidence and to be able to have that assurance that that's the person that you're dealing with requires a high level of self-confidence. And so that's where that goodness then arises from, because that particular person understands that these particular things that they're aligning themselves to will then allow themselves to grow, will allow themselves to help other people, will allow themselves to then build relationships that last a lifetime, essentially. And so understanding that by building your self-respect, you will get out of that nice guy cycle, having to chase women or having to chase dopamine or having to get yourself into circumstances where you have to be appeasing other people. Like, it's not completely necessary. Yes, there are social settings in life where it is required of you to be polite, where it is required of you to understand that there is a hierarchy and that there are people above you in that particular setting. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that you need to be an ass kisser, that you need to be subservient, that you need to acquiesce to people who you don't agree with.
Yeah.
It's one thing to go, okay, yeah, I understand there's a hierarchy, and I also understand that other people have different ways of thinking, and I need to make sure that I align with them so I don't get into trouble. It's also another thing to go, well, I respectfully disagree with what you're saying, and not be a dick about it, and go, hey, you know what? I can see what you're saying. I don't completely agree. Help me understand why you think this way, and let me help you understand why I think this, so that then we can either come to a mutual agreement, or at the same time, we're happy just to agree to disagree. And that's a huge difference. But then it all boils down to, how confident are you with yourself? How much do you respect yourself? How much do you love yourself? Do you love yourself enough to say no to people? Do you love yourself enough to go, hey, look, this is not what I'm about, and I'm willing to walk away, and then go and do it? And so being a nice guy doesn't often transpire, or a nice gal doesn't often transpire to the life that you want. You may think it does, because that's what you were taught growing up. You've got to be nice, you've got to do this, you've got to do that.
Yeah, that's right.
You've got to be good, like you've got to be on your best behavior, whatever the bullshit story was. And you realize that you're actually living for other people, when by learning to live for yourself, but then not at somebody else's expense. That's a completely different thing as well, which we can elaborate on after. But to me, it definitely boils down to that self-respect and self-love component.
Yeah, that's right, 100%, and that's all evolving around the promises that you keep for yourself, like we touched on a few episodes ago. Discipline you have, or the skill discipline you have, it's all around that self-respect aspect. And the more you do that, the more you look after yourself in those areas, the more you're a kind person and not a nice person. You can still be polite, you can do the right thing by people, all this and the other. That's just being a kind person and doing the right thing, not just bowing down to them like you said before. It's just doing the right thing by people and not just being cowardly and just sucking up to them and not saying what you believe in, because if you don't say what you believe in, then a lot of time people will hold on to their own thoughts as well at the same time, and that's got a big thing that covers as well. Like, that can stop other people from saying things, and then it's got a flow-on effect. So it's a massive thing.
Absolutely, and that flow-on effect then carries on to the rest of your life and the actions that you take, because the thing is too, when you agree with someone that you don't agree with, what often ends up happening is then that other person either is thinking, hey, this person is just agreeing with me for the sake of agreeing with me, right? And then you never really have a fulfilling relationship that way because you no longer trust each other. Or the person genuinely thinks that you actually agree with them, and then they continue living their life in that accordance that you agree with me. Oh, okay. And then later down the track when you tell them you don't agree with them, they're like, well, since when?
Yeah, exactly. Why haven't you said anything all this time?
Absolutely. And since always. And so that requires courage, and that requires a little bit of self-respect to go, hey, look, no, like this is not the answer.
I'm not going to keep going on with your story, like just exactly.
And that's exactly right. And so, and there have been plenty of circumstances in my life where the stories continued for the sake of other people. And so at the same time, like there are circumstances where that ends up happening. And so understanding that being able to control the controllables and see where you are in relation to the story enables you to go, look, okay, this is what I need to be doing differently. This is what I need to work on. And you build upon that. And so understanding this, you're not living in another person's shadow, or you're not following in someone's footsteps per se, in the sense that you're living according to their terms. You're living according to your own terms. Now, what I was saying earlier as well is that being able to live on your own terms, but not at the expense of someone else, is a skillful thing for you to be able to achieve. So, for example, if you and I are training together and you want to do a particular set of exercises and I don't want to do a particular set of exercises, and I agree to do this particular set of exercises to make you happy despite me not wanting to do these exercises. There's two ways that I can look at it. One, I'm doing these because I still want to stay friends with you and I still want to continue training with you, and I feel as though that if I do continue training with you, then I'm going to grow because you're a leader, you set the bar, you set the example, bang, 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 bang. But it's not really aligned with my values, but I stick it out because, you know what, it's the right thing to do. Yeah. Where if I go, hey, look, this is not exactly what I would want to do, then you either go, well, okay, that's okay, we can do something else today, not a problem. Or you would never know if I didn't say anything at all, and
you think it'd be okay with it.
Exactly right, but you have no idea until it's brought forward. And so understanding that, having that self-respect on my end to say, hey, look, I'd like to do something different, and you having the self-respect on your end going, look, okay, let's do something different today.
Yeah, work with each other.
You learn to work.
Yes, yeah.
You learn to work with one another, because if I continue doing your workouts and it's costing me my energy, my time, and my ability to speak up, then likely later down the track, I'm not going to work out anymore, and I'll just make up some excuse as to why I can't come. And you'll go, what the hell was he doing? Like, I thought he liked it. What changed? Right? Where I didn't speak up, so that's on my part. And then you knew in your mind that you were asking questions about what was going on. Why didn't you say something, right? And so by being the nice guy, nobody says anything because they're afraid of breaking the peace. Where as a good person, they genuinely go, hey, look, this situation's wrong, and we need to have a discussion about how we can make some sort of resolution where both parties do agree and they both benefit from said solution, and not one way is the highway, and not, you know what, we're not going to say nothing at all because we don't want to hamper the actual situation even further. And so having that courage enables you to have those difficult conversations, because having difficult conversations is probably one of the hardest skills that you can acquire, but it's also the most beneficial skills you can acquire.
Yeah, exactly. And pride comes involved with that as well, like not wanting to let go of your existing beliefs or current training scheme or whatever it may be. That gets involved as well as your own self-respect. Like sometimes you've got to, like it's not your self-respect in them occasions, it's your pride that's holding you back from it. So you've got to sort of delineate between the two. and try and just do the best thing. Like you touched on before with the workout thing. Yeah, you could say if you were doing squats, for example, I wanted to do squats and you weren't open to doing squats. You had like something in the past that was stopping you from doing squats properly, right? Rather than me saying, no, fuck it, we're doing squats, I don't give a fuck what you say, we're doing squats, right? Rather than that, we can say, oh, okay, we can do another movement that targets the same muscles, or work together to target legs if we're doing a leg session. You know what I mean? We could do that. That's not losing your own self-respect, that's just working with the other person. And there's a difference there, and that's being a kind person because you're taking in consideration what the other person has to say. It's not just being a nice person and just completely basically just bowing down and saying, oh, we won't do the legs anymore. Like, you know what I mean? You're just trying to keep them happy overall.
Cowardice is a form of fear, and a coward is a person who has made fear their identity. And so when you're dealing with a nice guy, right, or a nice gal, they have fear as their identity. And so they will do everything in their power to ensure that A, they're not exposed to that fact, or they're not exposed to that fact, but also no one else is exposed to that said fact. And then also at the same time, they'll do everything in their power to ensure that everything is peaceful, everything is on the line. They don't go any further up, they don't go any further down, they just flatline, they just stay in the middle because that's where the most order is for them. But internally they're rotting. And externally everything else around them is also rotting because what they're internally projecting is actually the reality. And like I said in a previous episode, the world shows you to you. And so if you feel like shit inside, then externally that's going to manifest itself in so many ways.
Yeah, 100%.
And so by being that nice person per se, who doesn't speak up, who doesn't take the courage and the initiative to ensure that whatever it is that they're after is gotten, then that's what they'll end up doing. Like they'll just let fear eat them up so much inside that then that just becomes their entire existence. And that's why nice guys finish last, as the saying goes. That's why nice guys and nice gals often just settle for less than what they actually deserve, because you know what, there are genuinely good people out there who don't really yet get what they need to do in order to improve. That's why there's helpful social media pages out there, there's helpful instructions from different people on how to develop as a person. And that's the most important skill that you're able to have, to be able to look after yourself so that then someone else then later benefits from your own personal development. And so to become a genuine person, you need to be genuine. If something's on your mind, say it. If something is in your heart, feel it. Because if you don't allow yourself to feel and you become this emotionless robot, then when something does trigger you, you're just going to explode. And then when you do explode, then everything else is destroyed around you too. I mean, if you've ever seen an explosion, I'm sure you have.
Yeah.
That something just blows up from a set position and then just wipes everything out around it. And so when you explode as a person, then your relationships are fractured, then the way you feel about different things are both exposed and also fractured, and then it takes time to repair that, where if you consistently worked on yourself being more genuine and being more honest, that explosion wouldn't have happened in the first place. You would have regulated and internally understood that this is your own dialogue and that everything that you see is a representation of you. You would have gone, yeah, wait a minute, maybe I just need to change the dialogue. I can just quit being a subservient dickhead who just says yes to everyone because I don't want to piss anybody off. Instead, you just go, yeah, hey, you know what? I'm not really that person anymore. And I go, well, hey, you know what? If we say no, then we say no. Very simple. And so understanding that difference is so, so important. And so I think the first step to becoming a good, genuine person is acknowledging you might not be as nice as you think you are, and then also understand that, are you genuinely happy with how you present yourself, how you approach different things, different circumstances, different people? Because then if you're not, and you're actually honest about it, then that's the first step to healing, because you've diagnosed yourself properly. You haven't gone, oh, everything's fine, I'm just going to ignore what's going on here and ignore what's going on there. And you've gone, yeah, hey, you know what? This shit's actually fucked up. And if you are by yourself and you have someone who you can have a conversation with someone about this, find them, have a conversation. Don't just go and blurt everything out, because, you know, they have lives too. And for you to just splash your shit onto somebody else without considering how they're feeling is just an act of someone who is very ignorant. Instead, just go, hey, look, I've got a lot of feelings at the moment and I do need someone to talk to. Are you open to listening? And then if they are open to listening and receiving, then you have that conversation. If they're not and they tell you no, it doesn't mean you just go out and you go and splash your shit just because they're your friend. Like, because that's not a hallmark of a true friend either. And so being able to diagnose yourself accurately, properly, and understand that there will be quite a bit of work to get done in the long term, that's the most important thing you can do right now if you're feeling like that you're one of these nice guys who no longer wants to continue being a nice guy.
And by working on yourself, there's no real reason to be that nice guy, because you've got that sense of self-belief in you, you've got the confidence, you've got the skill of discipline that you've gained. There's that many things that you gain from working on yourself. You're no longer looking for that instant gratification, which being a nice guy does. That's why a lot of people be that nice guy, because they're getting that gratification straight away. And people give that back because sometimes they don't see through that mask of someone's doing it for the wrong reasons. So they give them that gratification there. Whereas being a kind person and having done the work on yourself, you're no longer seeking that gratification as much. Sure, you may get times that you're sort of feeling not 100% in yourself, but the majority of the time, you're not seeking that instant gratification. You're fine with the gratification that comes later on down the road because of that work that you've put in.
Yeah, you become very accepting of compliments.
Yeah.
Like, because I know for me, and I think this may be something that you sort of went through as well, that we weren't very trusting of compliments. Like, someone would say something genuinely nice, and the first thing we think is that, well, that's what we're supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
And because the thing is, because our normal was very different to other people's normals, right? And so, and you and I have very different definitions of normal as well. And so, with that being said, because we didn't trust people that had said, hey, good job, or hey, nice work, we'd always think to ourselves, no, we need to do more. We need to do more. The work's not finished, whatever the story was. Right? Like, you're able to have both. Like, just put it out there. You're able to go, hey, look, thank you for the compliment. I really appreciate that. And I'm glad you took the time to acknowledge my work. And you can also at the same time say, with all this work that I've done, I'm exceptionally proud, and I'm also looking to achieve X, Y, Z as well. And that's currently in the works. And now, thanks to this work that I've just done, I'm able to platform myself to get to that next step. You're allowed to do both. It's not one or the other, where you go, oh, I can't trust that person who said, oh, good job, because I haven't done all the work yet. I feel like a failure if I haven't got everything perfect, right? Like, you're not supposed to have everything perfect. Like, if humans were perfect, we'd be very fucking boring, right? And they say all these AI and robots and stuff are all perfect as well, which then, again, like, that already sounds boring to me. And with that being said, I think perfection and power is a little overrated, because with those things come the turmoil, the responsibility, the chaos, the order, the triumph, all these emotions, but it doesn't really come with happiness unless the happiness is worked from within. And a nice guy who's trying to make everybody else happy doesn't understand that. Whereas a person who's working on themselves and doing the inner work, who understands that happiness is just a byproduct of their own creations and their own manifestations and thoughts, they will not only make themselves happy, but they'll also make other people happy, and they'll also understand that the world's a reflection on them. And so the happier they become by doing the work, the happier the world around them becomes as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all goes back to, like I said before, working on yourself and just trying to get better every day and not blaming other people for things that you don't take responsibility on yourself. It's like that's being the ultimate sort of coward. Like, say if you throw someone on the bus for something that you've done, that's really that's showing, like, yeah, you might have been nice to a particular person here, but then in another circumstance, you're not backing up what you said you're going to do, and that just shows that it was for shit. Doing that thing, and you didn't have that genuine thing behind, that genuine intent behind you. It was just you being that nice guy in the moment, and then when it come to the crunch, you're just being a coward and let someone else take up the responsibility.
It reminds me of a Bible quote, and I think we can finish up on here. I can't remember exactly the book that it was in. I'm sure it was Matthew, and I'm certain that the passage was the third one in the book of Matthew. And I'm paraphrasing, but it was Jesus asking, who are you to point specks in your neighbor's eyes when you've got logs in your own? And a person who is unable to recognize that they have logs in their own eyes, but have the gall to pick specks in another person's eyes, it just demonstrates the ignorance that you were just elaborating on. And so reminding myself that there are people around me who I don't agree with, and that I'm not really fond of the way that they do things. Yes, it's very, very easy for me to go and pick that thing and go, you're doing this, and you're doing this, and it's all wrong.
Yeah.
Right? Where I remind myself that I'm no perfect angel either.
Yeah.
I'm a human who has faults and problems, and now is beginning to understand that pride isn't the opposite of shame, but its source. And so understanding that me pointing the finger at somebody else, that's my pride, right? And it's also my shame, because I'm ashamed of the problems that I have, and instead of addressing those, I'm pointing the finger at somebody else. And that's not the way, and which is why it's so eloquently labeled, and it's so eloquently articulated like that in the Bible too, because it gives us a reminder that despite we see fault in other people, it's often because we see fault within ourselves that we're not willing to acknowledge. And a nice guy will go ahead and point the finger whenever they get the chance, not in front of other people, but behind people's backs. Where a good person, a genuinely good person, will go, hey, look, I know I'm no fucking angel, and I fuck up every way till Friday, but at the same time, what you're doing is not good. And what you're doing, it does need to change. And at the same time, I'm not saying, hey, you must change or else. I'm just encouraging you that you might need a pivot, and you might need to consider a change in direction, a change in course, because it's going to affect our relationship later. And making sure that it's all said with love, and that it's all said with respect, so that then the person doesn't feel like that they're being judged or they're being frowned upon, but they're able to take it on board as some form of assessment, so that then when they are assessing themselves later, they can make a discernment and go, hang on a minute, what he was saying actually has some merit. What he's saying actually has some weight, where if I do make this change, I'm able to see this result. And so understanding that that is the fundamental difference between being nice and being good. Will allow for anyone who feels like that they're stuck being the nice guy, change immediately to being the good person, because they're able to tell the truth there and then.
I've got another point of view as well that I'd like to touch on.
Of course.
Like standards as well. Like, for example, if I've got such high standards ingrained in myself for a particular area, whether that be diet, training, whatever it may be, being a nice guy would be just be nice to them, be polite to them, whatever, right? And then in your mind, you sort of start to resent them or just not approve mentally to them, because you're thinking, why are they not appealing to their standards? Because you've got that sort of ingrained so much in you. Whereas if you were a kind person, you would actually point that area out and just say, look, I'm not perfect. At one stage, I was not at the level that I am now in that area, but I did these things to become the person I am today. And that's being a kind person and having a genuine intent. When it's saying that they've got areas to work on still, whereas what you would think would be nice is actually not beneficial to both yourself, because you've got that inside of you, and then it's affecting the way that you're treating others. It's also it's influencing the other person as well, because they're not recognising the situation they're in, and it's holding them back as well, and how their lives are affecting others, their family, friends, and society as a whole. So actually saying something, having the courage to say something, and not being a coward and having that pride hold you back, has got a major effect on how the world moves forward.
Absolutely. That was very, very well said. And having the courage to say something is very, very important, because the thing is, a lot of the time people don't know. People don't know that they're either making a mistake or that they can't see the course or the train wreck ahead. And anyone that prophesizes that they can, I don't trust them, because they are probably a train wreck themselves, and at the same time are willing to argue that I can see what's ahead for you. Like, you can't even see ahead what's for yourself, like let alone me or you or whoever it might be. And so, but those people that do say something, being able to take a step back and listen is also a very important skill set, because there are some people in life who you wouldn't take advice from. And they're an example of who you don't want to be. And so understanding that fundamental aspect of reality and seeing that these people are often just nice guys disguised as good guys, right? You'll be able to see the difference between someone who's genuine and someone who's pretending. And so knowing that you might be wrong, if you're saying this to another person that you're wrong, right? Often it's just a misconstraint in your own perspective, because pointing the finger at somebody else, you're still projecting your own perspective, your own standards. And so by having somebody who doesn't meet your standards of standards, then isn't their fault. That's just you going, well, I'm imposing my standards or I'm projecting my standards. And so you begin to attract people that kind of do the same. But like you said in multiple episodes previously, by leading by example, you begin to attract the example that you're leading. And so then that then goes up to the next tier to say, well, maybe I'm wrong, right? Instead of pointing to the other person, maybe I'm wrong, right? And then you go about and doing the work on yourself, and you go, hey, yeah, you know what? I was wrong. Like, I've been nice for way too long, and I've realized that I wasn't being honest and I wasn't being transparent. And so in that case, I'm going to now be honest, and I'm going to be transparent, and I'm going to say what I need to say whenever I need to say it.
Yeah.
And I think the highest level goes to there's nothing wrong at all. Like, because situations are just situations, and we make shit up. Like in our minds, like we're constantly thinking, and at the same time, like the way that we interpret things and the way that we've been programmed to believe that the way things work, everybody's different. And so often when people are arguing, it's just them yelling at each other with their own programming. So like if you and I were having a heated discussion, right, whatever you're programmed to believe and whatever I'm programmed to believe, we're just yelling at one another. That's just our programming, right? And it almost makes no sense, right? Because we're both programmed differently, so we're not going to have exactly the same opinion. So you can either do that all day and just be nice guys to one another and pretending that you care about one another, or you'll go, hey, you know what, this argument's pretty useless, right? You think this way and I think this way, but also at the same time, we can respect it and we can work around it and still be friends. That's when you figure out that there's really nothing wrong at all. Because there's a million ways to skin a cat, there's a million ways to be successful, there's a million ways to maintain and repair and continue building relationships. Like there's a lot of ways to do a lot of things. And so just sticking to one way or the highway will just keep you constrained and narrowed and pigeonholed into this one particular direction, and then you won't get anywhere, and then you'll feel like you're stuck. When in reality you're never stuck at all. And so by being genuine, you're able to arrive at this conclusion. And so every day I have the nice guy in me and then the good guy in me as well, and so does everybody else. So if I ever proclaim that I'm just a good guy, then I am full of shit, because I'm both, right? Like I'm never always a good guy. I'm never always a nice guy either. And so coming to that understanding will allow for you to then finally go, hey, you know what? I can let all of this weight of expectation go. And it doesn't really matter how people think of me, if they approve of it, if they don't, but they'll come to an understanding that by being honest and being frank and ensuring that your honesty doesn't come at the expense of somebody else's well-being, you're able to finally then have the discussions that you need to have the honest life that you were meant to live, because now you've decided, hey, look, I'm going to follow my thing, and I'm going to make sure that wherever I go, I'm going to bring people up with me, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that wraps up everything, I think.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Embodying Excellence. Brenden and I thank you very much for keeping up with us, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.
Yeah, thank you guys. I really appreciate it. Please like, share and subscribe, and don't be a hoe.
Share the show.